Brenda Paulson here with My Pastor's Wife Designs, and I am super excited in this video to share with you my favorite stamp set out of the catalog this year, Sea of Textures. If any of you know me, you know why this is my favorite. Guessing? That boy right there, or girl. It can be whatever it wants. Sometimes it's a girl, sometimes it's a boy. It depends on the card I'm making, right? So anyway, I'm super excited because I decided to mix up my Sea of Textures with my second favorite stamp set, Very Vintage. And we are going to make a super fun card today, so I hope you will join me as we create this beauty. Yep. So, hop on board and let's create an octopus. So these are the stamp sets that we will be using to create our Octopus Vintage card. As I said, I love Octopus. I love everything steampunk and vintage, and this just lends itself to my style. We will be using the octopus, the coral, the netting, and this leaf kind of vine out of the Sea of Textures. We will also be using the framelets that come with it. I believe they are called the Under the Sea framelets. And yep, Under the Sea framelit dies. And we will be using those to cut out some netting and then also the octopus. Out of the Very Vintage set, we will be using the doily. One of the best things in life is you. And with that, those are the sets we're going to use. We will be using Petal Pink, Flirty Flamingo, Old Olive, and Soft Suede for most of our stamp colors, and of course Memento Tuxedo Black for our octopus. And then we will also need some fine tip glue. We will need the burlap ribbon. I've got a really fun technique that I'm going to show you with that. And of course the metallic pearls. I love these things. They are so much fun and they really add to our vintage look. Our paper that we will be using, we have a piece of crumb cake, and it is cut at 4 1/4 by 11.5 and scored at 5.5. So it will be a top fold card like that. While we have the paper in our hand, let's just go ahead and give it a press. We will also be using the Wink of Stella. Then we have this beautiful piece of Designer Series paper. It is from the Petal Promenade Designer Series paper pack, and it is gorgeous. It has just kind of a marbling effect on the back of this particular piece, and then those beautiful flowers, and we will be using the floral side. And then I have a piece of crumb cake that we are going to use for the netting, just a piece of scrap, and then a piece of scrap white that we will be using for our octopus. So let's go ahead and get started with our stamping. We will start with the octopus because you want to give it a few minutes of drying time. The black can take a second or two longer to dry than the rest, so I like to get my black stamping done either very first or very last, so it has time to dry if it's like the very last thing I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead and just give her, because it's a girl card, press it down and let the paper pull the ink off of the stamp. You get a nice crisp image that way. See how beautiful that is? I love this stamp so much. We're going to set that aside, and we will need the black again in just a little bit. Now I want to work on this DSP. As lovely as it is, I want to do a little bit of tearing. This piece is cut at 3 inches by 5.5 inches. And what I want to do is I want to just take and tear a corner off of this, just the corner, not much of it. And then I want to tear down this whole side. And I want to keep it pretty close on this edge. Tear towards yourself because you want that white, little bit of white edge, because we're going to distress it. And the way that I distress it is I use a piece of foam from our sponges. I cut it in 6ths and I put a binder clip on it so that it's a little less messy for me to use. And then I want to just ink this sponge up and come around my edges that I've torn, especially and just, you see how I'm distressing that? I don't think there's any right or wrong way really for the distressing. And then I'm going to set that aside for a moment, and I'm going to bring my octopus over here before I get it cut, and we're going to just distress it as well. Otherwise it's going to be too bright white, in my opinion, on the card. Now let's go ahead and just distress around the edges of this card just a little bit, and then I am done with the soft suede. These are the Under the Sea framelits, and I've used 2 of the framelits. I'm going to just show them to you, but for the sake of time I've pre-cut some of the things. This is one that is the netting, and I just used some crumb cake, and then I cut the netting out, and you can see for the sake of time, because it did require a little bit of weeding, but look at that awesome net that you get. I really like this set, and the thing I like is it's really versatile. We've got our octopus, some seagrass, some coral, some different coral, 2 different sand dollars, but then also the insides of them can be used as starfish, and then a school of swimming fish, which is really nice. So I have those pre-cut, and he has also been, or she has also been distressed. Now with this piece of netting, you see how stiff it is, and it really doesn't, I don't feel, look much like a net. So I'm just going to crumple it up, and then I'm going to uncrumple it, and as what I did there is broke the fibers down. And by breaking the fibers down, this looks way more like a net. And we are going to do a little bit of distressing on this as well in just a moment when we do some inking with other colors. So I'm going to set that right here. Let's go ahead and get our Old Olive. And I'm going to set that right over out of my way just a touch. And I want my card piece, and then I want to go ahead and ink that up, and then I'm going to stamp off because I don't want that as dark as it is. I want a little bit lighter look for this card, and then I also want to stamp right there in the corner and maybe down the side, and there's enough ink on there you've seen for me to get that look. And that is all I want to do with the doily. And then, actually that's all I want to do with the Old Olive as well. I think the Old Olive really lends itself to the vintage look. It also looks very nice with the old Gothic style. And I don't mean the black, ooh, it's goth. I mean the vintage Victorian era. They had a Gothic style that they used lots of purples and olive greens and that sort of thing. So that's what I mean when I say goth. We are going to take the this stamp right here, this viney one, and we want to just run that down the edge of our card over the doilies, and just kind of creates that pretty edge. We want to keep this ink out for a moment because we're going to do a little bit more stamping to add some more interest. We're going to use this coral piece from the Sea of Textures and just kind of randomly stamp through the doilies, and you can, you know, kind of ink and then stamp twice. And then I want to do that up here as well, maybe one more down there. And then while I have this, I'm going to just grab this netting, and I'm just going to take this stamp just because it's inked and it really doesn't matter, and I'm just going to kind of randomly go over the netting to give it some depth of color. All right, and you can use the coral. I don't think it matters that much. Go ahead and clean your little coral stamp off for a moment, and then let's go ahead and get this Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to keep this other one open for just a moment. Flirty Flamingo is bright, so you want to tone it down. The way I tone it down again is stamp off, maybe twice, and then do an ink. Stamp, and then maybe an ink. All right, and I'm going to set this aside for just a moment, and I'm going to bring in my Designer Series paper again. I want to get out the soft suede is what I want to do. and my netting, the net stamp, and I want to stamp that all over this piece. And you can do it however you want. And again, you see that I didn't just always re-ink it. I used it like stamped off a couple times. That looks like I've got more color in it, which I really, again, like to do that with ink. It makes me feel like I've got lots more colors. And again, I'm going to pull in this netting and just go over it as well. All right. I'm going to set that aside, and now I am finished with the soft suede for real this time. And then I want to take, I want to clean that netting because I want to use it one more time. Okay, so I have my netting cleaned, and I'm going to stamp in the Flirty Flamingo, and again, just go over this net so that I have some variation of color. And then I am also going to, with the Flirty Flamingo, stamp some of the coral. Again, I want to stamp off just a little bit so that it's not as super bright. Then I want to bring the black in again and stamp my sentiment up here in this corner. And we are using this one that says one of the best, read it upside down, one of the best things in life is you. Again, ink your stamp up really well. You want a good image. And I want to stamp that right up here in this corner. Press it down, let the paper pull the ink off the stamp. And there we go, a really pretty image. Now we get to assemble our card. And I think this is one of the more fun ones that I have kind of come up with. So first thing, let's just get some snail and adhere this piece of designer series paper onto our card front. And I'm going to line it up at the bottom because I know that that is square where I didn't tear it. Okay, so there we have that. And then we are going to take a piece of our burlap ribbon. And I'm going to cut this at 8 inches. You're going to see this. It's kind of fun, kind of the magic. And I know, a little weird, but it makes sense when you see what I do. So I'm going to pull these fibers out of this. And you want to do it a little bit carefully because you're going to see what happens here. So we're pulling these fibers out one at a time. It just takes a second or two. It doesn't take forever. Try not to pull the nylon, the weaving. Try to keep it from pulling out all the way too. You see we've got this weaving that's going on right here. You want that. That's what we're actually going to be using. I know, weird, huh? All right, so I've got those. I'll save some of those for another project, plus use it for this project. Now you see this kind of weird meshy stuff I have. It's just nylon threading that was actually what was used to weave that ribbon together, that burlap ribbon. I want to treat it like netting. So I am going to lay this down on this piece right here, and I know you can't see it very well. I'm going to lift it up to the camera a little bit. You see how it lays on there? It's just adding just a little extra layer of texture. And I will just use some snail right down here just for it to stick until I get my other little pieces of layering on there. Now next I am going to lay this piece of netting down on here, and you can put it however you want. Just decide what you like best. Again, I'm just going to put a little bit of snail on there to stick it down, because really is what's going to happen is my octopus will be holding a lot of that down. Then some of these pieces that I frayed out, I'm just going to kind of nest on here, again with some snail just to hold it a little bit. And you see I'm just going to kind of, I don't know, twist it around. And you can also like bunch it up and kind of get like little frayed looks to it too. I've done that. You just do what you want to do. Play with it and make it your own. I'm just going to leave that like that. And then I've got my octopus, and with her, We're going to make her a little bit sparkly, so we're going to be using the Wink of Stella. I love this thing, and I'm just going to go over her, all over her, and make her shiny. And again, it kind of adds a little bit to the distressed look, but pops it off the page and makes it kind of vintage with the shiny. Just going to paint that all on there. If you have not used Wink of Stella, I highly recommend you have at least one pen, and if not more. I have backups because I do not like to run out of this stuff. It just really adds to what I'm trying to do. So we've got that, and then I'm just going to let that dry for just a shake, and I want to bring in some, you're going to laugh, but I want to bring in just a little bit of my fine tip glue pen down here on the bottom. I'm just going to kind of spread it around a little bit and then go ahead and put my net down. Now, I don't know, I think every one of us in the world who's ever bought a pair of shoes or a vitamin or anything that there might be moisture in has these. They're called little silica packs, these pillow packs. Don't throw these away. I use them for all kinds of things, but they make such a fun little texture on a card. It feels like sand, and you can even kind of put it in where you're where you've got your snail as well. But these, it goes a long way for one thing, and it just is, it's just like a fun element, and you can even color them. I've actually added color to them before. And then finally, we are going to put our beautiful, lovely octopus on this card, and we will be using Stampin' Dimensionals, and I recommend you be generous with them because we have these layers of netting. You want to make sure this is going to stick. All right, and we are going to just press her down on there. And then last but not least, because the more sparkle the better, I'm going to grab some of these gold metallic pearls, and I want to put them right in the center of my doilies. If you like vintage and steampunk and a little bit of grunge and collage, this is the card for you. Thank you so much for joining me at mypastorswifedesigns.stampinup.net. I hope you enjoyed this card, and I hope you will try to make it at home. I do have a list of products at the end of this video. I hope to earn your business, and thank you for shopping with me.